So as Bitcoin grows, I think it attracts that capital. And so why shouldn't it go to 10 trillion, then 20 trillion, then 40 trillion, then 80 trillion? And, so do I see a path to $1 million a coin? Sure, I do, right? When it gets to $1 million a coin, if you call me and ask me, what are you going to do? I'm going to wait for it to go to 2 trillion. Bitcoin will continue to appreciate more aggressively than other asset classes because it's the technically superior property. It's the least inflationary, and it's engineered to do this. So I expect it to outperform other comparable assets. It'll be much better than bonds, much better than gold, much better than a market basket of equities. It'll be much better than all the currency derivatives, because all the currency derivatives are based upon the net present value of the cash flows, or the discounted value of the cash flows. And if the discount rate increases, the value of the cash flows falls. So I think this is just a continual thing. Will it go up at 110% a year for the next 10 years? At some point, presumably, its growth rate slows down as the law of large numbers kicks in, and it goes from growing 100% a year to 50% a year to 40% a year to 30% a year to 20% a year to 10% a year. But I do think it'll keep appreciating over a long enough time frame. And I think it'll appreciate faster than any other choice that I can come up with, right? So I take a long perspective. And in terms of where it can go, I look at the value of gold, about $10 trillion of gold, and I don't see any reason why it doesn't flip that. And I look at 100 trillion in bonds, and I look at at the size of the global equity market, and I think 10, 20, 30% of that or more just wants to be in a store of value as a monetary index or just a property. So I think a portion of bonds, a portion of real estate, most of monetary gold, a decent portion of gold, a decent portion of ETFs. And so anybody that studies Bitcoin for less than 40 hours is just being bounced around like a pinball by different opinions of different influencers. Having a 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours is really difficult. When you get to 40 hours, you start to kind of get your hands around what's going on. If you want to really understand it, you need 1,000 hours, but let's say 40 hours is the point at which you kind of get the idea. So the question is, what would cause you to want to stop and spend 40 hours of your life studying something new? And the answer is the K-shaped recovery. When Main Street shut down, when Wall Street immediately recovered, when the Fed announced that interest rates were going to stay at 0% for the next 3 to 4 years, and when the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange started hitting all-time highs in the middle of the summer and just charged forward like nothing had happened, then financial assets delaminated from Main Street operational assets, and the monetary inflation rate tripled. When the monetary inflation rate went to 21% and the interest rate on treasuries went to 0%, then you had a negative real yield of minus 20% on all treasuries or all assets. And that meant that in 3 years, you're going to lose half your wealth. And that meant within 9 years or within 10 years, you're going to lose 75 or 80% of your wealth. So I guess in March, when I realized I was going to lose 80% of all the money I had if I did nothing, that was catalyst, or that was, I guess, enough of an influence to cause me to sit down and spend 40 hours studying. When people are putting money in an ETF like the S&P index, they're kind of just trying to save their money. If they wanted to bet only on big tech, they buy big tech FANG or they buy NASDAQ. But when they're buying the S&P 500, they're just buying a diversified portfolio of equity because they don't want to keep their money in a savings account yielding 0% interest. And they know that bonds you're taking the risk of losing all your money, but you're only getting paid 1 or 2 or 3% interest or something. So as Bitcoin grows, I think it attracts that capital. And so why shouldn't it go to 10 trillion, then 20 trillion, then 40 trillion, then 80 trillion? And, so do I see a path to $1 million a coin? Sure, I do, right? When it gets to $1 million a coin, if you call me and ask me, what are you going to do? I'm going to wait for it to go to 2 trillion. I think I'll just hang out here because it's still digital property. And if it got to that point, it must be wired into 100,000 applications and billions of people's lives. So I think it's just a patient waiting game. I didn't have any problem or any urgent catalyst that would cause me to spend 40 hours studying Bitcoin before March of 2020. If you go to hope.com, HOPE, Bitcoin is hope, remember that, and go to hope.com. And on hope.com, you'll see a selection of Bitcoin courses, including Gensler's. You'll see a Bitcoin for Everybody course that my foundation created, Bitcoin for Everybody. It's free. You'll see all the collection of books like the Bitcoin Standard, the Bullish Case of Bitcoin. You'll see free resources. You'll see a bunch of video sessions and lectures. You'll see a bunch of research. You'll see a collection of Bitcoin influencers and leaders. You'll see a selection of Bitcoin podcasts. So you can just go ahead and work your way through that. And I think once you've gone through 40 hours of that, you'll have a pretty good sense. That's what I would do. My operational interest at MicroStrategy is to spread intelligence everywhere. And so it's been a vocational passion of mine. And I enjoy that. And I think it's really great to make enterprises and people smarter. So that's cool. My avocational passion at the Saylor Academy, Saylor.org, is a nonprofit foundation, and all of my excess money goes to that foundation. And when I die, my assets will finance that foundation. And that foundation's mission is to make education free for everyone, everywhere, forever. I think we're just about to cross 1 million students that we've had enroll. And we just give away free college education. And I think it's possible to use technology to educate the world. So I think that's motivational. I like the idea of making education free for everybody forever. I like the idea of making everybody hyper intelligent. And since I discovered Bitcoin, well, we had to have a balance sheet strategy. Before we didn't, but you can't have an operating, Harvard can't exist without an endowment. A company can't exist without a balance sheet, without a treasury. So we needed a financial strategy, and our treasury strategy became Bitcoin. And as I got more heavily involved in it, I realized that Bitcoin is a profound technology, the most profound technology probably of the 21st century. And for the first time in the history of mankind, we can give property rights to everybody on the planet. And so I began to view that as a moral imperative, an economic imperative, and a technology imperative. And, if you can make everybody rich and educated and intelligent and healthy, then why wouldn't you? It's like, what's more motivational than that?